I'm Norman MacLeod, I'm known as Nam. I've been a search and rescue Winchman Paramedic for 14 years with the Coastguard. So I was fast asleep in bed, it was about 4:30 in the morning, phone went. It was duty captain Chris, he was saying, we've got a big one, we've got a big one. We've got 2 fishermen trapped in some winching mechanism on their boats about 160 miles northwest of the base itself.
Norman, along with his team, took off from Stornoway, but time was of the essence.
We do have a radius of action that we follow. This vessel was at the very edge of that radius of action. So we managed to gain communications with the vessel. However, their English was very broken. My Spanish is non-existent. So we were just getting patchy information at the time. We really had to go and see what we were facing.
Battling wind, rain and 4-metre waves, as Norman prepared to be winched to the boat, the language barrier was the least of his worries.
Winching somebody off a boat is easier than putting them on a boat. I can time when I take them off quite well, but putting them on is always harder than taking them off.
When I arrived and assessed the first casualty, it was evident that there was a traumatic amputation. His whole leg had been pulled out of the socket of the hip and was missing. The second casualty was still trapped in the mechanism. It was evident then his right leg was 90% amputated and hanging on by a flap of skin. His left leg was just totally mangled and bleeding profusely. I used tourniquets on both of his legs and this stopped the bleeding.
I think most people understand what the startle phenomenon is. We do experience that in search and rescue. It can be mitigated by training and experience. It probably felt to him like that startle lasted a lifetime, but it would have only been a couple of seconds before his training experience and knowledge kicked in.
After a gruelling hour on the vessel, Norman successfully escorted each casualty to the helicopter, where he and the crew continued to carry out emergency treatment.
I had deep concerns for these casualties. They'd been in this condition for a long time. I don't think they had much time left, so I was glad to get back on the helicopter and get on our way back to the hospital to stabilise these guys and get them back to definitive care. My wife Alison, she was at home. She just came up and gave me a big hug. It's fantastic to win this award, but I can't take all the credit myself. We were a team that day. I just happened to be on. Any other Winchman paramedic that was on would have done the exact same as myself.
Please welcome Norman Nam MacLeod. You look a bit overwhelmed by this, are you?
Well, it just mentions the startle phenomenon. This is it.
This is it. Well, I have to say, it's a long time since I've been winched to safety, but that's a whole other thing. Only a few people actually got that, but never mind. This is serious. Come on, come on. Now, your crewmate actually talked about, what is it they call it? The startle response, yeah?
Yeah,
and that means when people freeze in extreme situations.
Yeah.
Explain a wee bit about that.
So it's like the brain kind of reboots. It sees something it doesn't like, and it just goes, whoa, stop, and start again. Let's take a breath, let's reassess and go for it.
And did that happen to you as well?
Yeah, totally.
I bet.
But I'm assuming with all the training that you had, you weren't expecting to see something. I mean, if that were in a Mission Impossible film, it would seem far-fetched.
Yeah.
When you're confronted with that, and you're trained, but surely you're not trained for something as extreme as that.
Exactly, we train all the time, but not to that extent. There was so many injuries there, we just we didn't know what to do.
And to tuck into that as well, the language barrier.
The language barrier.
I mean, did any old-grade Spanish kick in or
nothing? I've got a wee bit of German, but that didn't work.
You tried the Gaelic on them?
I tried the Gaelic, didn't know how.
A wee bit of that. Not even uno cerveza. It didn't work. No.
Beer,
That's the extent of mine.
It was a full hour that you were...
It was a whole hour we were on the deck trying to stabilise them before we managed to get them off.
Did that feel like the longest hour of your life?
Exactly, yeah, the longest hour. But then we had another hour before we got them back to the hospital as well, on the transit back. Yeah.
I think no one here can actually imagine what that was being like. What was it kicked in that let you get on with the job, really?
It's just, I've been a paramedic for 30 years now, and the experience just kicked in. and just went.
But
with
the
my
other
gut.
thing about that, I mean, we know that as performers, if you're doing a show on stage, there's a lot of adrenaline and everything. But not quite what you've been through. but how do you come down from that? How do you get calm after it and not relive the experience?
You do. You relive it all the time, but you learn to put it in that wee black box in your head.
Yeah.
And my poor wife there, she kind of gets
Where's
it
your
all
wife?
the time.
She deserves a round of applause.
Yeah,
Give us a
absolutely.
wave.
Yeah.
Come on.
And
She's always got a hug for me at the end of the
Oh,
job.
a hug, that'll do wonders,
Yeah,
definitely.
it does.
the plain and simple fact is there are 2 men alive today because of you. How does that feel?
Yeah, it's quite humbling. Yeah, very humbling. Yeah, very humbling.
Okay, well, listen. Yes, no, come on. I reckon, on reflection, yes, you deserve an award. So what we have is 2 leading lights from one of your favourite sports, yes, and a presenter who's overcome his own traumatic injuries to inspire. So please welcome to the stage world champion curlers, Jennifer Dodds and Bruce Mowat, and JJ Chalmers.
Hola, how are you? What a story that was. What a thing you lived through. That was utterly extraordinary and harrowing. And like many of the things we've heard tonight, had moments of real darkness in it. But quite rightly, this man has stood in the spotlight now, in the light, as a shining example of what an incredible human being he is. But the last line of that really struck me in that film when he said he just did what anyone else in his crew would have done. But I know from learning about his story that your crew looks to use such an experienced, cool head as well. You think what you do is ordinary, but trust me when I tell you this, it's extraordinary. So thank you very much. It's an absolute pleasure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Norman, as you said, it's incredible. Like 30 years of experience, all put to use in that situation is truly incredible. Saving these 2 people's lives in such an extreme situation, the weather being horrendous, is truly inspiring and just shows how much work you put into this profession, and it's inspiring. So thank you.
You're a true life action man, which I think is so cool. And yeah, to deal with the pressures that you were under and to be able to save those lives was incredible. So you truly deserve this award, and we congratulate you.
Pride of Scotland. There we are.
There you are. Thanks, Jennifer, Bruce and JJ. Congratulations once again to our winner, Norman Nam MacLeod.